Hi, my name's DavidRudduck, and I am the founder and managing director of Insane Technologies. And today I'm going to talk to you about how to harden your business's cyber defenses and be better prepared for a cyber incident. A little bit about me. I founded Insane Technologies at the ripe old age of 22. I've consulted for and worked with a wide range of local, national, and international companies. I'm a certified professional in cybersecurity by the Australian Computer Society, a certified information systems security professional by the ISC Squared, a member of the Australian Information Security Association, a GAC certified forensic examiner, and also a forensic analyst. A little bit about my company. When I first started Insane Technologies, we started off as a regular IT support shop. We moved into managed services and then into cyber about 7 or 8 years ago. And in 2018, we were engaged by CFC Underwriting to become their primary cyber incident response partner for Australia and New Zealand. Our cyber team provides incident response, digital forensics, and data cataloging services to victims of cyber incidents through their insurer. As a byproduct, we get to see firsthand what causes a cyber incident and the damage that unfolds. In April of this year, we were acquired by CFC Underwriting, and as a byproduct of that, we don't only get to see what happens in Australia and New Zealand, we're also seeing what's happening in the US and the UK through CFC's global customer base. So let's have a look at a typical IR scenario, and I always liken it to the fact that we as people have been having car accidents for over 100 years, and we're pretty aware of how car insurance responds. But when it comes to a cyber attack, most cyber attacks start off with an IT support problem, and someone's trying to access something in the office or on a network share or an email service or something, and it just doesn't work, and so they lodge a support request. And the IT team gets in and they do a bit of an investigation and realize that there's been a cyber incident. So the business then either calls their insurance broker or raises an alert, and the incident response team is engaged. And this is where things typically go really, really well or not so well. At this point, the IR team often discovers there's very little logging. The threat actor has been in the system for a considerable amount of time. The IT team have left their own footprints all over the digital crime scene while they've done their own investigations. And unfortunately, the forensic investigators are not able to accurately determine whether or not there's been a data breach, and the business has to notify under the Australian Privacy Act, under the notifiable data breach legislation. This is not a situation we like to have to end up in, but it does happen all too often. So what are the common causes we are seeing that result in a cyber attack? Well, supply chain attacks have been around for a long time, but in recent months, we're seeing an insurgence of this. If you recall in the news, there was the SolarWinds software supply chain attack quite a while ago, and more recently, Kaseya, the makers of a piece of software that a lot of managed service providers use to look after their customers' endpoints, was compromised to deploy ransomware. We're also seeing watering hole attacks, which is a website that you're tricked into going to and clicking on a link or opening an attachment. And we're seeing a lot of this with law firms and real estate agents, where examples of agreements are put up on forum-like websites, where people are asking for that document, and when you click and download it, you are installing some malicious software, but it's designed to look like a real website, and there's lots of comments saying, "Thank you, that's exactly what I needed." We're also still seeing a lot of open remote access, so whether it's remote desktop, terminal servers, Citrix, a lot of businesses obviously had to pivot for working from home, but the necessary security hasn't been put in place. Credential stuffing attacks are another one we're seeing quite a lot of. There are that many databases out there of commonly used passwords, and also a lot of people reuse the same password over and over again. So when their password is compromised on one service, the threat actor just goes out and fires that password off at every other service available. And of course, we're still seeing a lot of phishing attacks. Phishing attack is where you receive an email that tricks you into clicking a link and entering in your Office 365 or Google G Suite credentials. So what can you do? Well, What can you do to prepare your business and also to harden it? And the first thing, kind of like an OH&S plan, is you really do need a cyber incident response plan. A lot of the problems I see for a lot of businesses is they overcomplicate it, and it really needs to be simple. It needs to list the primary contacts, vendors, and responsibilities of all parties, make sure everyone understands it, and if you can, run a regular tabletop exercise at least once a year to walk through some of the typical scenarios that you might have, whether it's a ransomware incident or a business email compromise event. And a lot of the cyber insurers may actually give you a template to help you get started. As part of that incident response plan, I'd recommend that you try and take a backup of the crime scene, so that whatever you're doing to investigate the incident doesn't get in the way of the forensic investigators. A bit of a myth or a old problem that I see a lot of it as well is that there's this, if you think there's a cyber incident occurring, rush to pull the power plug, and nothing could be further from the truth. I've worked in a number of instances where the MSP has suddenly rushed and turned off all the equipment, and they've actually ended up damaging the systems. And not only that, in certain ransomware families, the decryption key may actually still be stuck in memory, and if you turn it off, then you lose that. You need to dial up logging. In Microsoft 365 land, the unified audit log was not enabled by default. It is in new M365 tenancies, but if you've had Microsoft 365 for a while, you might need to go in there and turn it on. You can get a tool called LogMD, which will assess the security settings on your Windows servers and tell you what you need to turn on. Really great tool. And you need to turn up the size of your Windows event logs, particularly the security log, because that's one that forensic investigators will really hone in on, and often it's too small to actually have stored anything of real value. And the other side of turning up the logging is also making sure the logging goes somewhere other than the system it's on, because over a period of time, logs rotate, and if your servers get encrypted with ransomware, then they're not available. So you can make it as simple or complex as you really want. There's a lot of really great solutions out there that'll help. There's also managed security service providers who can help with this. But if you're on a budget, you can use a tool like Elasticsearch. I would recommend trying to store 12 months worth of logging data for your firewalls, your servers, and other key devices. And it needs to be on a separate system, so that if that system gets compromised, if the other systems get compromised, your logging server doesn't get compromised as well. Of course, we always need to secure the end user. And one of the biggest challenges I see is passwords. Passwords need to be long, and we need to make sure that we're not forcing our staff to change passwords on a regular basis. I had a staff member who worked with me a few years back, and she came from the travel industry originally. So her password was Holiday 1, and then when she was forced to change it, it became Holiday 2 and Holiday 3 and Holiday 4. And this is pretty standard. It's called password fatigue. And whenever I do a presentation in real life, and I mention this, everyone chuckles because we all know someone who does it, and probably quite a few people in the audience do that because passwords are hard, right? Stop forcing your users to change passwords. Just make them long. The longer the better. It's trivial to brute force attack a password under 8 characters. And enable multi-factor authentication using an app. It should be on for your email. It should be on for any remote access services. It should be on for anything where sensitive information or financial information is stored. You can turn it on for Facebook, for LinkedIn, for everything else as well. I have it on everything. And despite what many users push back and say, oh, if I have a multi-factor authentication app turned on my phone, then the business knows what I'm doing. And that's a load of bollocks. At the end of the day, this helps protect you and it helps protect the business and its customers. So we really need to get beyond that. In fact, this overcomes a lot of the other problems regarding passwords. And we also need to change the IT department so that they're no longer the Department of No. They're the Department of, look, we don't want you to do it that way, but here is a solution for how you want to do it. Because ultimately staff will do things to help them get their job done. And if the IT department says no, they'll just find a way around it. We also want to encourage notification of suspicious events. Really good example in our business. We said to clients, if you think you've had a phishing email, send it along to us. if it's correct, we'll send you a chocolate. And a chocolate bar costs like $2. Responding to an actual cyber incident costs a lot more than $2, and everyone likes chocolate. So we had a lot of emails coming in from clients wanting to know whether or not a link was safe or not to click. And we had very few, if ever, cyber incidents as a byproduct. We also needed secure remote access. As I said at the start, we're seeing a lot of remote desktop servers being compromised. Unfortunately, some of the older way of thinking IT professionals think that if they change the magical port number 3389 to something else that bad guys won't be able to find it. That is also a load of bollocks. Security through obscurity is not a thing. It's trivial to find those services using a port scanner, which are also available. Go look up Shodan. And you need to put it behind a VPN or have some sort of MFA enabled, and make sure that things like the copier account, which won't have MFA enabled, is not able to log into that system. You also need to go through things like your Microsoft 365 and disable legacy protocols. So legacy protocols are those old access methods that we use to access email. And these days, those don't support multi-factor authentication, and threat actors will try and leverage them to get into your systems. And put your vendors on notice. This is a big one. Coming back to the supply chain attack, what do your vendors do? Do they log all the activity of your users? If so, should you be backing up anything? How is sensitive information protected? Do they allow you to enforce minimum password policies and multi-factor authentication? And do they get independent penetration testing performed on their software, particularly if it's a vendor like your SolarWinds, your Kasayas, and all that of the world, where it's managing multiple devices or it's publicly accessible? What are they doing to try and find those holes in the armor and ensure that you and your customers are not going to be the byproduct of a silly programming mistake? And also, if you are using a managed service provider or a managed security service provider, do they enforce MFA to access remote support systems? And would their cyber insurance policy cover a claim where a significant number of their clients were compromised as a byproduct of an attack against their business? We have seen in the last 12 months a number of managed service providers get ransomed, and all of their customers ransomed as a byproduct. And of course, backup. You absolutely have to have a backup strategy that backs up your business critical data to an offsite facility, preferably daily, preferably automatically. Walking a hard drive offsite is no longer a good enough solution. I know it's cheap, I know it's easy, but what happens if the hard drive gets stolen out of someone's car on the way home, or you just simply forget to swap it? And I see that happen a lot. In fact, a number of incidents that I've responded to started off with, it was the one day that I forgot to swap the drive. Also, replicating your data from one facility to another is not a backup. If you replicate bad to another site, you have two sites with bad. And we've had this in a number of incidents where a business was replicating their data to an offsite facility, their main site got compromised, and so did the offsite facility. And of course, it's kind of like a fire evacuation plan. If you don't test it, it's no good. And you need to test your backups. We prefer monthly. And unfortunately, when we ask people, when was the last time you tested your backup? It's usually when I had a cyber incident. And again, that's just not good enough. You need to test it regularly. If you don't test it, how do you know it's going to work? And get cyber insurance. And I'm not just saying that because, my company's now owned by a cyber insurer. Originally, I thought cyber insurance was a little bit of bollocks. But as I've seen the amount of times it responding to an incident and what it will cover, a typical cyber incident, the smallest costs are the IT support costs. The biggest ones are the business interruption costs, bringing in incident response, bringing in legal, bringing in a PR firm. These things can span out to millions of dollars if you're not covered. And I'd really recommend as well partnering with a managed cybersecurity provider. And again, I'm not just saying that because it's something we do, but what I see all too often, unfortunately, with IT people is this belief that we want to be all things. And it's that old saying of master of all, I've forgotten the saying, but it's, you think you know everything, but you really don't. And you can't be an expert on everything. You can only be an expert on certain things. So IT folk need to accept that unless they're, a team of 50 people with a dedicated team of about 5 of them being in cyber, they can't know everything. They can't have the threat intelligence that happens every day. We work with a lot of businesses who, they got great IT teams, but they just don't have the skill in-house to understand cyber properly. So go find a good cyber partner that you can work with, who can augment your existing services. For MSPs out there, go out and partner with a managed security service provider, even if you have to white label their services or something. You're doing your clients a favor, not trying to do everything, because it's a horrible, horrible situation to end up under a cyber attack and just being not as well informed as you could have been. If you've got any questions, I'm always happy to try and answer them. You can either reach out to me on email, on LinkedIn or Twitter, or you can visit our website. I really do hope you've gained some information out of this. I really would prefer to be helping businesses avoid a cyber incident. It's a really stressful experience to go through a cyber incident. As much as we love working with those businesses we work with who have cyber incidents, I would much rather do business with people and help people in the right direction. Even if they never do business with us, I'm totally fine with that as well. But it's like trying to help people avoid having a car accident. Of course, no one wants to go through it. So thank you very much. I hope you have an enjoyable rest of the conference. And feel free to reach out. Thank you.